Take my advice. Broads don't belong in broadcasting.
Shut up and sit down.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I should really, instead of saying welcome, everybody, I should say welcome, anybody, since there's rarely anybody in the chat. Today, it's just me and Karen. Sarah is otherwise engaged.
Gallivanting with her family.
Exactly. And today, we had intended... Oh, Cheryl's here. Hi, Cheryl.
I just saw the link.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This week it is me and Karen and Cheryl.
Hooray!
So we had originally been planning to do this week's call about bail reform. But then with everything that was going on with Puerto Rico and the news coming out about that, it just felt really, really pressing, especially personally, as I have some extended family in Puerto Rico. And it is astonishing to me that we have the resources that we do at our disposal, and yet people still are not sure if their family members are even alive. And that is just unacceptable. I feel like we're asking bare minimum here. Yes. So we have a bunch of different resources, especially... Oh, Melanie's here in the chat. Hi, Melanie. We have a bunch of resources in the Broad Defense... Oh, see, I'm doing it. The broadcast newsletter for different charities that you can send your dollars to, because mainly, rather than supplies, which they're going to have a hard time with maneuvering at the moment, they really just need money. Like, that's the main thing. Oh, and Jamie's here too. Yay. Hello. We've got 2 people in the chat. What's up? So the suggestion that I had made in the initial email was to donate to United for Puerto Rico, which is the charity that's being spearheaded by the First Lady of Puerto Rico. And then Karen had one called oneamericaappeal.org. And you can choose the disaster.
Which hurricane?
Right. There's just so many to choose from. It's like going to the store. Mm-hmm. And in the bottom of the newsletter, there's a list of like 5 other charities plus a link to see more. And there's another like 10. There are a lot of what is it? Giving organizations that are involved in this right now. And even GoFundMe has like a whole page of personal GoFundMes for families and stuff that are experiencing really specific stuff. So
I saw this referred to as the first GoFundMe disaster. Wow. Tells you how our government's doing.
Yeah.
People, turn off the light.
I've seen our healthcare being referred to as GoFundMe healthcare, which seems accurate also.
Terrible.
One of the main things that pushed me over the edge yesterday, really, if you follow Broadcast on Facebook, you probably saw my all caps "this fucking motherfucker" post.
Yes.
Regarding President Trump refusing to waive the Jones Act for Puerto Rico, even though he did it for Texas. That was fine. And Florida. Mm-hmm. And there's been this like, well, it really wouldn't do any good anyway because of the situation there. Listen, guys, I don't care. Just do it, please. Like, just everything needs to be on the table as a tool, and just do it. Oh my God, what is wrong with you?
Right. And this is an island of American citizens.
Exactly. We're acting like we treat Puerto Rico, like, just in general, as if they are not one of us. And it's really shocking. Like, I was talking to my boyfriend the other day, and he didn't find out until like his junior year of high school that it was an American territory. He didn't even know because it's just not included in curricula at all.
I didn't remember when I found out, but yeah, it's not when I was little. Just by the way, Senator McCain and Representative Gary Palmer of Alabama have submitted bills to repeal or suspend the Jones Act. So some people are trying to take action. And
I had read about this ship, the Comfort, that they were not going to send, that now apparently they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which is a military ship, right?
Yes, hospital ship, basically.
All right, so of course I come prepared with a little bit about the Jones Act.
Beautiful.
Jamie's over in the sidebar asking about the Jones Act. I'm like, oh yeah, trust us, Jamie. We're going to get to everything.
This is the sort of thing that we have to know now. So listen, can you change the lights for me so that it's not, because, all right. So
it doesn't look like a disco?
Oh, cheerful.
It is cheerful, but I don't have a phone that controls them anymore. Drop your phone and pay the price.
Hey Google, make the lights boring.
My husband is not helping me here. All right, so I listened to a podcast called The Congressional Dish, and Jennifer Briney runs it. She's amazing. She reads bills in Congress, tells us what they're about. She did a big thing about Puerto Rico, where I first learned about the Jones Act. So you would want to look up that episode. It was in the last several months. Good stuff. Learned so much. Right. Jones Act is terrible. So after World War I, the shipbuilding industry was decimated. And so they passed this bill saying that do I have it exactly? Yes. Mandates that any shipping of people or cargo between two U.S. ports must be done with an American ship to avoid tax and tariff penalties. So it was passed after World War I to help sustain the American shipbuilding industry. So that means any ship that they send that goes into Puerto Rico has to be an American ship with an American flag. So if you send supplies to Puerto Rico, they have to, and you're in Canada and you're a nice person, or if you're in Mexico and you're a nice person, it's got to bounce off America first. And get moved over to a new ship. Mm-hmm. And so that just makes everything more expensive. If you're Hawaii, it's particularly terrible. Things come from China and could go to Hawaii. No, they got to go to San Francisco, get on a different ship and go back to Hawaii. So it's not just a terrible act for Puerto Rico. But if you think of Hawaii as being expensive to live in, and you think of Puerto Rico as being expensive to live in, this is part of the problem, a big part of the problem. It is estimated that without the Jones Act, Puerto Rico would not currently be in debt.
Yeah, about that.
Wow.
So about that, Puerto Rico has this weird little glitch that they're not allowed to declare bankruptcy. They've been denied that. And so to raise money, they did all these bond offerings because they're in debt because of the Jones Act. And those bonds it's not working out. And they got sold to hedge fund people and vulture funds, they're called, who are trying to foreclose. I don't know if you watch the show Billions, where they're doing this to this little town, or they're pay us instead of your teachers, or keep your hospitals, or whatever, pay us first. Yes. And it's terrible. And that is where they're at in Puerto Rico. So their electric company just declared bankruptcy, but they aren't allowed to restructure their debt. So I think we need to waive, suspend, or better yet, the Jones Act. We need to let them restructure their debt. There was a bill in the session last year that would have let them just restructure all of that. Not forgive it, just make it restructure it so they can cope with it. Because the things that we've done to Puerto Rico have left them vulnerable to a disaster. And then a disaster arrived, and it's terrible, and it's our fault. This is not their fault. They're good, industrious, useful people. There's no reason they should be in this position. We did this. We need to fix it. It's ridiculous, and I am upset. I'm sorry. I started out calm and scholarly.
Yeah, I mean, what killed me was the tweet that Trump made about how, the reason that things are so bad over there is just because they had a crumbling, terrible infrastructure. And he's saying it like it's their fault that was the thing. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I'm like, That's all on us. That's 100%. Our colonialist asses don't know when to fucking stop.
Like he makes a point of pointing out they owe money to Wall Street.
Right?
Oh my God.
Just acting like, oh, well, just mooching off the government. He like totally gives this impression that they're like a welfare territory. It was like the vibe that he was giving off, and I'm just like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Oh my God. Like, and people are falling for it and acting like the fact that their infrastructure was a mess. Like, oh, well, that's what you get for not taking care of things. How are you supposed the newsletter that I sent out for broadcast, at the bottom, there's a quote from John McCain because he, like, when they said that they weren't going to waive it this time, he was like, hey, that's really unacceptable. What is wrong with you? So thanks, John McCain, for standing up again on that. And also, they're pointing out on 5 calls that the average income for that country, or was it 5 calls? No, it was the Hill. The New York Times, I linked to that, is even though per capita income in Puerto Rico is about $18,000 a year, close to half that of Mississippi, the poorest of all 50 states.
Wow.
And they have to pay 13% more to live there than in 325 urban areas elsewhere in the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
That's crazy.
it's just they make way, way less, half of the poorest state in the U.S., and they are paying more on average than urban areas.
And then we do these things to them. They're hard done by U.S. policy. I got a couple facts about Puerto Rico. They became a territory in 1917. You can do the math, but that's a while ago. 100 miles across. It's not huge, but it has 3.4 million people, which would make it the 30th state by population. So it is by no means a tiny little place. It's small. Anyway, it's about 1,000 miles from Miami. And I looked up for some perspective on that. That is about Houston to Denver, a little less. Hawaii, by the way, is 2,300 miles from California. So it's not like Puerto Rico's out in the middle of the ocean or anything. Famous Puerto Ricans that people in Puerto Rico has given us, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Sonia Sotomayor. People we can be proud of. The tax situation is super weird. So they pay federal taxes like import-export taxes. They pay like Social Security and Medicare and all of that, but they don't pay federal income tax. But they did. So altogether, the other taxes they paid $3.7 billion into the federal treasury last year. Wow. So they're they're paying their taxes. They're place that, okay. So it's not like they don't pay any taxes. That's not right. But they can't vote for president, as you know. They don't have any representative in the Senate, and they do have a delegate in the House who's not allowed to vote. They're just allowed to speak.
How is this allowed? Oh my God. Okay.
Some people said no taxation without representation, and then how to revolt.
Yeah, I feel like, it's just like this sort of thing that when I started to look into this a couple years ago, because my stepmother's from Puerto Rico, I was just like astonished. I just couldn't believe that this was how and the fact that it doesn't really it's not at the forefront of a lot of activism that I see. And I think a lot of that is just people just do not know.
Wasn't on my radar until Congressional Dish did that amazing piece.
Mm-hmm.
And they deserved our help before the hurricane. And now, at this point, yes.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be, I donated money this morning, and from Bill Track 50, I tweeted it out. And we should call our senators and try to get them to actually make policy changes that are going to matter, at least suspend the pain, if not stop the pain. But we can't continue to do these things when they're trying to rebuild. It needs to be suspended for decades, if not forever.
Right.
Because how are they going to get back on their feet if we're continuing to bleed them dry? It's just not going to. Okay, I'm done.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Co-signing all this. Co-signing Karen's rage. So the 5 calls for this issue had us calling our House representatives.
Sure, that's fine too.
Is that what you? Okay, because
I
sometimes
want to call my senator, but that's just me.
yeah, I kind of feel like I want to call my senator rather. I'm not sure if maybe this is structured on 5 calls because sometimes something will pop up after you do it. If I called my rep, then it would be like, okay, now call your senator. They're just recommending you call everyone as possible.
All 3 is totally relevant in this case because it needs to happen fast. Oh, and the other thing is them not like approving additional aid until the fiscal year starts.
Yes.
Shut up.
Mm-hmm.
It takes days to get them aid. Like you got to start yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this needs to be.
They don't have internet, like you said. It's terrible.
My stepmother has a sister and a mother and father who she doesn't know if they're alive or dead. Like she doesn't know anything about their situation at all. And I just can't imagine, like, if I'm worried about my boyfriend and it was like a day and I hadn't heard anything, I would be losing my mind. And it's been a week. Like, I don't know what I would do. Just a couple days, I would be like on the edge of losing it. And the number of people who just don't know what's going on. You know, there's a listener of mine who is on Twitter and his mother, you know, he's just like, I straight up don't know. No idea. I just can't imagine, you know? Ugh. So yeah. All right. So who wants to go first?
I can go. Are you going to go with the 5 call script?
I'm going to generally go with it, but I'm also going to, you know, insert my personal interest in it.
Right.
And I'll probably mention putting pressure to waive or repeal the Jones Act because it just doesn't.
Let me go ahead and go first and get all this stuff out. But I want to say. And then I'm going to call my other representative, my congresswoman, after we're done. Cool. This is Cory Gardner, my Republican senator. Although it's probably not. It's probably his voicemail.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, this is United States Senator Cory Gardner, your senator from the great state of Colorado. Thanks for calling my office. Please feel free to leave a message.
Hello, Senator Gardner. I was calling about Puerto Rico. My name is Karen Suhaka, and I'm a voter from Denver, 80203. And I am real worried about Puerto Rico. So, as you know, they have no representation in the Senate, and I'm hoping you will stand up for them. First, we should rush aid to Puerto Rico immediately and not wait. And very importantly, we should make sure the Fiscal Control Board can't divert disaster funds to pay for pre-existing debt. And pay Wall Street, as Trump helpfully mentioned on Twitter. Speaking of debt, we should also allow Puerto Rico to restructure their debt, like H.R. 4900 would have done in the 114th session. And finally, really, we should suspend, or even better, repeal the Jones Act to give Puerto Rico a genuine chance to rebuild. And I understand that McCain has or is about to introduce a bill to do that. So I hope that you will support that. And I hope that you will be a voice for these people that really need it right now. Thank you.
Nice.
Golf clap.
Yeah. So this Fiscal Control Board, like they took the fate of Puerto Rico out of Puerto Ricans' hands and put them in receivers, you know, like said they're going to decide who gets money, and it's never Puerto Ricans. It's the banks that, or the hedge funds that like bought the bonds. So I'm afraid that disaster funds will get diverted back to like hedge funds in Wall Street, and they'll get paid before like houses are built.
That is crazy payment.
And so any funds we send need to be legally like not to repay that debt, have to be for disaster relief so that it doesn't get scooped up.
Wow. The fact that that's even something that we need to worry about. I just can't imagine the kind of person that you have to be to create the kind of like loophole that entraps a person or a country or a group like that.
Or 3 billion people.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the whole income inequality piece, there are a lot of people at the top that are so concerned about the almighty dollar, and people don't come into play. And that is sickening.
It's just, it feels like they're cutting off their nose, because it does, like, when people on the bottom do better, everybody does better. But it feels like we just never remember that. We constantly do this thing where and then we cycle back and remember and start to do better, and then we squash it again. It's so bizarre.
But you don't have to think that. Some people think if everyone on the top does better, it'll trickle down.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's been proven to work, obviously, so many times.
As each Republican administration has shown us, no, that's not right. But that's a thought that you could have. The other thought is that it could build up from the bottom, which apparently is your thought.
I love how you're like, that's, not how it works, but that's a thought that you could have. That is the best shade I've ever heard. Basically, I mean, you can believe in nonsense. It's a free country. That's delightful. All right, I'm going to call Ted Cruz.
You tell him.
Ooh.
Mr. No on healthcare, because it's not bad enough. But, we'll take the no.
I could not stop laughing. He's like, I'm not voting for this. And I'm like, oh, for real? And then he's like, because I want you to cut even more stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, there it is. That makes way more sense now. Okay.
Hi, this is Ted Cruz. Thank you for calling my Washington, D.C. office.
He doesn't have an office. He has
serve the great state of Texas as your
voicemail.
state senator. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments. To leave a message for me about current issues or legislation, please press 1.
Should I leave a message?
For information regarding our office address and hours, please press 2. For instructions on how to submit a scheduling request, thank you so much for your thoughts and concerns about the important issues facing our nation. Please leave me a message and include your name, your city of residence, and your email address. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natasha Kingston. I'm a constituent from Denison, Texas, zip code 75020. My email is kingston.natasha@gmail.com. I am calling to urge Senator Cruz to immediately pass a hurricane relief package for Puerto Rico. It's inexcusable that we are not taking swift protective action when millions of Americans are in the midst of a dire humanitarian crisis. As somebody who has family in Puerto Rico, it's really frightening and frustrating that I don't know how they're doing after days. And I'm just incredibly worried about them. And this is America, and it is 2017. We should not be in this position. And waiting until the new fiscal year to pass this is completely unacceptable. Also, I would appreciate if you would put forth some pressure to waive the Jones Act, which is, it was waived for the state of Texas. It was waived for Florida. There is no reason not to waive it for Puerto Rico with the situation that they're in. So please do all that you can to help them. Thank you.
Well,
all right.
That was impactful.
Yes.
All right. Oh, look at my hair.
Well, it's my
Now I feel worried about your family.
Yeah, I mean, when you have family to talk about like that, that is very impactful. I'm really bummed that you guys both got voicemails.
Yes.
It's been happening a lot more lately.
Probably because the phone lines are burning up.
I hope so.
They should be. All right. My turn?
Please do.
I'm going to call Roy Blunt, who is my conservative senator.
Nice.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that Claire McCaskill would definitely support this. I can always call her too, but I can call Ann Wagner later. That's who was recommended by 5 calls for me. Let's see what we've got. Oh. Hello?
Sorry about that. Senator Blunt's office. Can I help you?
Hi there. I'm so glad to get a live person. My name is Cheryl Pryor. I'm a constituent from St. Louis at zip code 63126. And I am calling to urge Senator Blunt to immediately pass hurricane relief for Puerto Rico. We've got American citizens there who are in really dire straits and need help immediately. And I'm also very concerned about the Jones Act, which was waived for Texas and Florida and has not been waived for Puerto Rico. Hoping that the senator can also address waiving the Jones Act, at least through this relief and even further for economic recovery for Puerto Rico.
Okay, I'm happy to pass your message to the senator. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yay, I got a live person.
You got a person. I thought at first you got a pervert. That was very concerning.
Well, I was typing in the background. I don't know if you could hear the typing, but maybe she didn't mean to answer the phone. I don't know.
All I heard was like a...
Yeah, I heard the breathing and then the type.
Well, you know, I might compare some representatives to Darth Vader, and that's...
Oh, God. That is... Little known fact, Darth Vader was actually just a huge pervert. Well, I really appreciate you guys calling on this one, because this one just got really personal for me real quick.
You're not wrong.
I just can't. Like I've said this on this show multiple times. The more I find out about the way things work, the more I'm just like, how is this allowed? I don't know how this is allowed. But they should have full representation. They should be getting everything they need. Jones Act should be repealed, not just waived. I mean, I'll ask for waiving for now, just as the bare minimum. But holy shit, we do not need this anymore. It's just baffling.
And how are Puerto Ricans still like nice and veterans and like generally good citizens? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we should all be counting our blessings that they haven't just burned this mother down, because I kind of want to, and I'm not even living there. So hopefully, the one thing I can say is this horrific crisis will hopefully draw more attention to their overall situation and maybe get some more people like realizing exactly what the stakes are over there beyond just like this immediate crisis. So
that would be a nice outcome. So they can't hear us, but we're thinking of them. So
we are.
All right,
ladies. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody in the audience. We had 3 people on chat today. It's the most so far. So
wow, yeah. Yay.
See y'all next week.
See you next week, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.